Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. Firstly, Council acknowledges the traditional owners of these lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to their lands, waters, skies, culture and the contribution they make to the life and spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and present elders and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Item 2, present and apologies, Mr. CEO. I think.
Yes. Sorry, man.
Do we have any apologies from officers?
We do. Gihan Kohabanche is an apology. Yep.
Thank you. Councillors, any conflicts of interest? No. Officers? No. Item 4, leave of absence of councillor. We have Councillor Michael Grout is still on a leave of absence. Will be joining us next month. Item 5, public question time. 5.1, public question status update. There are no public questions outstanding. 5.2, public questions. We have received no public questions this week. So we will continue. It seems a bit strange not to have a public question, but that's all right. I'm sure they'll come soon enough. Item 6, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. 6.1, the ordinary council meeting on 24 July 2024. Councillors, the recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on 24 July 2024 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Can I get someone to move that, please? Oh, sorry, Councillor Minty, seconded by Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. 6.2, ordinary council meeting on 24th July 2024, confidential minutes. The recommendation that the confidential minutes of the ordinary council meeting as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Can I get someone to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Minty, seconded by Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 7, record of informal meeting of councillors. Record of informal meeting of councillors is included at the adjunct to item number 7. The recommendation that the record of informal meetings of councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. Can I get someone, we move that? Just someone, thank you, Councillor Minty. A seconder? Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 8 is the notice of motion. 8.1, notice of motion status update. An update on the following 2 notices of motion is provided in the adjunct to item 8.1 to this agenda, that being item motion number 2024-590 and notice of motion number 2024-592. 8.2 is there are no notices of motion received. Item 9 is the petitions and joint letters. None were received. Councillors and general public, there's item 10 is the functions attended. The functions attended list is presented. Can move that someone move that the functions attended list report be received. Thank you, Councillor Minty. Second, Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 11, Chief Executive Officer, 11.1, Chief Executive Officer Report for August 2024. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
And thank you, Mayor, and through you. Just before I do go to the report, I just wanted to acknowledge a couple of officers today. We as you might expect, we had some limbs break off trees and we had a couple of trees down during the day, but the officers did a great job tracking that and organising for the clean-up, and we're all very grateful that the storm wasn't as bad as that we experienced in 2021. So hopefully for our residents, they didn't have any damage on their land.
Good news, and if you pass on our thanks to those officers concerned, that'd be great.
Otherwise, I'll take the report as read, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Councillors, do we have any questions for the CEO in regard to his report? No, I've just got one more of a comment. I know the G21 Canberra delegation you talked about the region grows and the Ballerine link, and it's interesting because I know the ABC were running it, have caught on to that as well about the Ballerine link in the last couple of weeks in an article, although I had interviewed a few different people about the Ballerine link, and I know the Liberal member, Beverly MacArthur, was certainly very strong in getting that going as well. Thank you. Any other further questions for the CEO? If not, I'll get someone to move the CEO's report. Move Councillor Tolhurst, seconded Councillor Minty. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 12, Heritage Planning and Infrastructure. 12.1, Planning Permit Activity Report. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. The following report is a summary of the planning permit activity for the last month up until the close of business on the 19th of August 2024. I'll take the report as read. Happy to answer any questions. Just a couple of quick updates in relation to the planning application 2024-029, which is for Wharf Street. There's 3 objections to that as of today, and councillors have indicated you would like a briefing on that, which will be arranged.
Yes, that's if councillors could have a briefing on 4 Wharf Street, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to reinforce for a VCAT matter, planning application 2022-044, which is 6 McDonald Road, Queenscliff. We still haven't received the results from the hearing on the 15th of July, but we'll update councillors as soon as we know, bearing in mind the next hearing is scheduled for 24 September, which will be in caretaker period.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim? If not, I'll get someone to move with include that councillors have asked for a briefing for planning application 2024-029. I'm happy to move that. Could I get someone to second that? Second, Councillor Grigao. All those, if no further discussion, all those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Item 12.2, Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Update. Thank you, Abby.
The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the capital work projects Council is currently undertaking at the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve. Just as a way of the project update, following the recommendation at last month's ordinary meeting of Council, Council has sought a variation with DECA for an updated project scope. The project managers are working on an updated landscape plan reflecting this adjusted scope, and this will be used to gain all the required approvals before works commence on site. This week, the temporary overhead power has been connected to the engine shed. Please note, as mentioned, this is a temporary solution for power until all the required approvals are received and the underground power can be connected to the building. The placement of the meter box will be reviewed for the permanent underground power installation. At the PCG meeting, which was held on Monday, it was recommended that the timing of the PCG meeting in the month be adjusted so that it is more in line with enabling us to report to Council each month. The PCG agreed to this and the meeting dates will be adjusted accordingly. So the recommendation is that Council notes the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project update for August 2024. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Abby. Councillors, do we have any questions for Abby?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Knowing community sentiment about the valuing of heritage in our borough, why was the meter box or the power box put at the front of a heritage building?
It's not a heritage listed building, it's in a heritage area. It was placed on the front of the building because it's a temporary solution, and it was really because it had to go overhead. It was really the only place that they could place it. They could put the meter box.
Why couldn't they put it around the side and still have the conjunction?
Would have meant that we had to remove vegetation, and there was a retaining wall there as well. So
why sort of, but
and it probably,
Hang on, Councillor Grigao, just let Abby finish the answer.
and some of those works would have probably needed a CHMP. So the aim of this was to get it done, acknowledging that we need a CHMP to be completed before we can do the underground power works.
Thank you.
just then, under the Aboriginal heritage legislation, is CHMP CHMP mandatory for the restoration of the military or maritime structures?
Mr. Tsu?
No, not mandatory. So all cultural heritage management plans, or generally, are voluntary, and council has determined that we would undertake a voluntary CHMP for the entire site.
So then we're moving ahead with, and why not, if it's not mandatory, shouldn't we just then move ahead with the restoration of these structures straight away?
As explained in a couple of forums, we've, and certainly to the PCG on Monday, we've taken a whole lot of feedback into account about whether or not work should commence before the completion of the CHMP, and the general view and the view certainly of the Wadawurrung elders is that they would prefer that the work was done before we commenced works.
Can I just ask, on the same token, in regard to the project, certain things can continue though, for example, planning, getting the permits, heritage permits, procurement, those things can still move ahead or not?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yes, no, so certainly the project doesn't stop, as Abby will be able to attest. There's a lot of work that we're currently doing and will continue to do, including getting engineering designs for the defence structures, getting Heritage Victoria permits for the heritage, for the defence structures, and getting appropriate costings for that. So I think it's a misunderstanding if certainly those community members that think the only thing that's holding up the defence structures is the CHMP. There's a lot of work that's going on, and there's a lot of work to be done before we can start work on those structures.
What's the cost of this?
The budget aligns with the funding provided by the state government, which is $1 million.
What's the cost of the cultural heritage, and how will it be funded? Would it be coming out of the $1 million grant, or would it come out of council's funds?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you, Councillor Guillaume. So at this stage, and without, and I'm afraid to say figures because you'll all hold me to it, but at that stage, HMP looks like it'll be about a $50,000 investment. Council will co-contribute to that because we want to include the toilet block, the work that we need to do for the toilet block, which isn't part of the funding, and the work that we want to do for stage one and the signage involved in stage one. So we'll certainly co-fund that. And I think is 50,000 a reasonable,
can you then advise when did we have, which council meeting that council decided that we're going to co-fund this cultural heritage study?
So the council's determined that it will do and fund the replacement of the toilet block, and once the council's determined that budget, part of the works to replace that toilet block require a cultural heritage management plan. So it's just by extension that we will, the budget that we have for that project will go towards the co-funding of the CHMP.
I asked what date did we decide on that?
Well, the original budget allocation for the toilets was, I think, 22-23, and it's gone. That money stays in a reserve, so that's what we'll draw down.
Perhaps, we could provide that date when that stage one went through.
Oh, so this is separate from stage one. This is the capital works project for the toilet block. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
It takes over 2 years, or we're looking at plus that. So the toilet block roof has been off for now 2 years now. So it's we're looking at probably another 2 years. Is that correct?
Well, hopefully not 2 years. We certainly haven't. We've been told that the CHMP will take time, but we haven't been. 2 years hasn't been put to us at this point.
Yes, yep. Sorry, Councillor Tolhurst is happy to move the recommendation. Can I get someone to second the recommendation? Second, Councillor Minty. All those in favour?
Oh, can I speak to the motion?
Sorry, I do apologise. Yes.
Thank you, Abby, for the update. As mentioned, I'm happy to move as presented and only add that I think the temporary power provided to the board riders was agreed in its entirety by the PCG and is a win for the club, its members and the broader community. It's temporary. It didn't need a Heritage Victoria approval, which I know has been subject to some of the discussion in our community or concern because it falls under the category of maintenance, and it will be removed when the more permanent power supply is installed, with any impact to the building or the fascia and the woodwork to be tidied up or returned to its original state. And I also, in the same vein, see the undertaking of a complex cultural heritage management plan as a real opportunity. This was mentioned in a briefing the PCG received from a senior member of the Department of Premier and Cabinet who is sort of an expert or can advise on the Aboriginal Heritage Act and its related regulations. It's an opportunity to learn more about the cultural heritage values of the site, while we also restore buildings and acknowledge the maritime and defence history. So I think it's a wonderful unifying feature of this project and is a very important part of the work if we're to proceed and successfully acquire Marine and Coastal Act consent for the works. I should also acknowledge, or in this forum, that I'll be stepping back from the chair's position as we enter caretaker mode, so an officer will be stepping into that position, and in stepping back I'd like to acknowledge all the work and contributions of the PCG participants, particularly our community members who've been on a long journey, but we've got some great progress underway and I look forward to seeing that work roll out.
Can I just follow that and say,
Thank you.
can we just ask, because you know, the community has shown great interest and care, and you know, being part of this community, you would actually know that they take great pride in our historical buildings. So why would council then really want to just have very little foresight and care about damaging the building without sort of
So
installing a
Councillor
better...
I think you've already asked that question and it's been answered.
Oh, it hasn't.
you.
So
Yes, it
just to
has.
say, we're actually
Sorry,
asking...
Councillor, no, I'm sorry, it's been answered. Councillor Minty, you second motion, would you like to speak to it? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? So moved, thank you. Thank you very much, Abby. Councillors, we'll move on to item, sorry, just check. Item 13, Governance and Finance. 13.1, the fourth quarter implementation update for the annual plan. Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mayor, and this is a sort of end-of-year report for the work that was included in the annual plan last year and the actions we intended to complete. We've provided an update for all those works in progress, and we've also noted those works that are complete. I think it's worth noting that we've separated this out from our normal quarterly financial report, just because we're doing the end-of-year financials and they'll come to councillors later. Otherwise, I'm happy to take any questions the councillors may have about items in this report.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions in regard to the fourth quarter update? Councillor Tollerhurst.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Just about any further progress than the notes that are provided against the Go Lightly Park Development and Engagement Plan, or if there can be a little bit of extra detail provided to that, please.
So through you, Mayor, and following a briefing to council early in the year, after some initial analysis and some feedback from DECA and the Wadawurrung, we've gone away and we're preparing a business case for 4 options on the site. We've done the financials now, we're tidying up some drawings, and we're hoping to present those options to council in the next little while. I think, Abby, I don't want to dob you in, but I think we're aiming next couple of weeks. And following that, we'll then, depending on the advice from council, we'll then start to work towards engagement for those options. In the meantime, we've spoken to a number of other councils that are in similar situations with caravan parks, and the business case is starting to reflect the advice and the processes and some of the experiences some of those parks are going through. So in particular, Apollo Bay and Anglesey, where there's this reassessment of the role of annuals and 12-month permits in caravan parks. So that's also provided some insights for us.
Yeah, thank you. Councillors, any other questions for the CEO in regard to the... Councillor Minty?
Thank you, Mayor. Just the CEO. I noticed my grandson was very interested, and I'd be in really big trouble if I didn't ask a question about the bike park concept. It says that the concept is 95% and it's been moved, carried forward from 24-25. Do we have a date for that project, please?
Certainly, when we say 95%, the final piece of the puzzle is that we're speaking to the Department of Transport and Planning, who are the custodians of the land or the road reserve, just to make sure before we present it to council that they're comfortable, having given in principle support, that they're comfortable with the design that we've I guess completed, and then we'll bring it to council. It's just unfortunate for us. It's a bit of a timing issue in terms of the reporting.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr.
Okay.
Councillor Gregory, your question?
Portfolio 5, Governance and Finance. The service needs analysis. So, just recapping on the meeting, the Assembly on the briefing on the 14th of August. I don't recall sort of the details there. So what's the...
No, that's a good point. I've misstated that as a workshop. The intention was for a workshop. What we presented, what I presented at the Assembly was a overview of a scope for the project, and then I've sent the verbal presentation through a paper to council, and I guess requested that council provide some feedback. I think in presenting that to council, I was trying to set some parameters around this concept of needs and linking that back to both what's required through legislation, what our demographic data is telling us, and doing a gap analysis about those sorts of services that a council of our size would provide. And I think that distinction was important because of the work we've been doing through the budget process, which is really informing us that we are going to have to really start to focus on those things that are absolutely required and needed, rather than those things that we would like to do, which is a difficult situation, but not a situation uncommon amongst most local government entities.
But you've got it down in Q4 milestone, so considering it's a fairly urgent requirement, to actually going forward into briefing the new council, shouldn't that be actually brought forward? So, the new council can actually prepare better for the budget, for the what's actually needed for the community, not what we rather have the needs rather than the wants.
Yeah, it's a good point, Councillor Gregory, but certainly this Q4 report is the Q4 that's just been, rather than Q4 early next year. So we will continue through the induction process to have those discussions with the new council about our observations about needs and the budget.
I think also when the new council's in place, when they go through the 4-year council plan, I think that's a really good opportunity to identify, if there are missing things that new councillors have seen in their day-to-day life in the borough, that they may like to bring as part of the council plan process as well. So, Councillor Gregory, was another question, or you?
That's all, thank you.
Okay. Could I get someone who would like to move the motion then, please?
I move the motion with an amended motion, please, and that is to adopt, to note the quarterly report update against the annual plan 2023 to 2024 for the period 1 April 2024 to 30 June 2024 with the following change, and that's to reflect feedback provided in this meeting tonight. And I think it's simply done by, under the service analysis section, simply saying a preliminary briefing has occurred in the place of a workshop has occurred.
Thank you. So with that, Councillor Tolhurst's motion, could I someone to second the motion? Councillor Minty, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Item 13.2, Community Satisfaction Survey. McKenna, welcome.
Good evening, councillors. The purpose of tonight's report is to advise council of the results of the 2024 Community Satisfaction Survey for the Borough of Queenscliff. I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. I might get someone to move the recommendation, then we can talk to it. Move Councillor Tolhurst, seconded Councillor Minty. Councillor Tolhurst, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, McKenna, and your team for compiling the report, and to officers involved in putting the report together, and to, of course, our community who participated in providing feedback. As we know, 400 for the borough is a significant portion of our community, so these are great statistics to use to examine our work and perceptions of it. Particular nods to the waste services team, those managing arts and library facilities, and those supporting our aged care or delivering our aged care services. These responses certainly reflect your hard work and dedication. Of course, it is, more broadly, it's disappointing to see a decline in some of the key areas, but as I said, I think that always provides an opportunity to examine what we've done and what we can do differently. 2023 was a really big year of immense community engagement for the borough, and I see this as a positive. We had hundreds and in some cases thousands of people participate in issues like our active transport strategy, our community conversation on the Voice, our coastal and marine management plan, and Springs Beach safety improvements. And engagement and active participation is a positive for democracy always. I'd also note that these surveys are about perceptions and don't necessarily track service delivery or policy implementation. As has been mentioned earlier, in relation to another matter, the election of a new council provides an opportunity to respond to one of the lower performing indicators. That's a perceived lack of council direction. As one of the first jobs a new council does is to devise a council plan in consultation with community, and as this council devised its own council plan in 2020, so that process will happen again in 2024. Again, seeing the opportunities in declining results, I point to the motion that I brought to council last month, which is about examining new ways of communicating with the public and talking about or consulting on the matters we have at hand and have to deliver as part of that council plan. It's fabulous to see the report already on the website, because we do always publish our results for the community, and I certainly encourage any member of community with questions or who wish to interrogate the data further to get in touch, and again look forward to seeing this as an opportunity for improving how we do our work and how we engage with our community.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Councillor Minty, you second the motion. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to congratulate all those who are in the 50% where they're providing services to the residents of the borough. Those particular areas were held up very well, I notice, and so therefore none that I can tell of the issues where we have seen a drop is relevant to the type of service that the staff within the building are providing to our residents, which is a terrific thing to see. I'm particularly disappointed, however, that the comments on the survey report do so and create that lack of harmony inside council and the involvement in political issues, particularly wrapped around the national voice and the other issue of a lack of transparency. I'd also point out that I think within the percentages and the way these things work, when you look at the trends the movement is in line with the long term, that is, every 4 years there's an election. Every 4 years there's a downturn in the last period. It depends a little, I think, on whether there's a state or federal election occurring in and around the same time. So there's a lot of action about that. This in no way is any excuse for the drop-off in our performance, and it should be something that we should note very carefully, and the comments I think are very important, particularly those who live in the borough. I notice those who live outside the borough and come down on a, well, that are not permanent residents, let's put it that way, they still see our performance as being much higher. So it is obviously a lived experience by our people here that we should be looking at very closely in those issues that they've brought to our attention. And thank you very much for the report and also the summary. I think it's well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minty. Councillor Grigard, did you want to speak?
Yes, sure. But this report's, yes, it's, you're asking questions for the community or what they think about, how the council's going. And it's not a reflection on, council staff and how the service deliveries is actually, the biggest telltale is the overall council direction. Now, we've dropped in 2 years from 61 years to 44. Isn't that a significant drop? And shouldn't we be paying very close attention to that and workshopping to say, where we're going wrong, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, other councils, are all tracking that same way. Oh, it's a 4-year trend. Like 4 years ago, we were sitting at 45. We're down to 44. If you go another 4 years behind that was 51. It's if you wanted to play the trends, every single, some say, two stayed the same, and then all the other indicators were, dropping. This comes down to, I think, we, as a group, and especially the, new council group should be looking at that and saying, hey, where the issues that have led to these results, and they really have to take a good hard lesson from it and reverse it.
Yeah. Thanks to Councillor Grigard, and I agree with you. I think there's plenty of work to be done, and I think the new council certainly has a lot of work to be done, and by no means are we happy with the result. We certainly understand that we're all disappointed. We much rather have a line that's going upwards, not downwards, and so we certainly, don't just slide this one into the file. This is something that needs to be done, and as Councillor Grigard mentioned, it's good food for thought for the new council to have a look at where the dips were and how they can turn those around. So thank you for the councillor's input, and thank you, McKenna, for the work you've done as well. If there's no further questions, if we have a mover in a second, I'll put that. Sorry, did you? No, she didn't. She didn't. Did you want to present the report, or you went straight to us? That's all.
Go straight to you.
Yeah, you went straight to us.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. So yes,
thank you.
the purpose of tonight's report, I'm here to present the report for the Community Satisfaction Survey.
Okay.
Do you want me to go into
Yeah.
the recommendation?
Sorry, I do apologise.
No, you're right.
You did.
I scooted ahead, so that's on me. And I've got it written here. The recommendation is that Council notes the results of the 2024 Community Satisfaction Survey and thanks those members of the community who took their time to share their feedback with Council.
Thank you, Adam.
One more question. So we sort of gone into the next round of consultation because of people, like, see there's a Facebook post out to the community, and other communities are saying that why, we're going out getting feedback when we've just presenting this report.
There was a point in time where it was done at one point during the year, across the 12 months, and the providers of the survey made the offering to councils to potentially spread it out over 12 months just to try and smooth out any population changes, which is particularly relevant to us given we have a holiday influx of residents coming back to their homes. So we've taken up that offer for the last few years, and so we have quarterly survey periods. So there's a period every quarter, about 10 days, where those survey conversations are taking place. And so it's over the year that we get the 400 phone calls. It's not every quarter. So roughly about 100 calls every quarter.
And I did see that you had some communication out on social media that residents do expect phone calls as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We flag it on the website and we put some social media out just so people know that, particularly in this environment now where we get so many scam calls happening, it's nice to just know that we're legitimising the survey. Yeah.
So, Councillor, you had a follow-up, right, a reply?
Just a question, if that's okay, Mayor. And that is, forgive me if this is in the report, do you know how many councils across the state are still undertaking this survey?
Yeah, absolutely. It's declining every year, and I think at this point in time it was about 63. Yeah.
Okay.
It's declining because there's other opportunities and different ways of doing the surveys, and different councils hold this survey with varying regards as to what they use it for. And I think I have put in the report that this is the final year of a 10-year contract, and so there's conversations now happening with the state government that is taking time to have a look at what model they might go into the future. So yeah, I think at the end of the 10 years, it's just had experienced some drop-off.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, we do have a mover and a seconder. For that, can I, all those in favour? So moved. Thank you. Thank you, McKenna.
Thank you.
Item 13.3, review of instruments of delegations. Mr. CEO, are you going to talk to this one?
Yes, and through you, Mayor, and I'll note that we've been considering this for a while, and we organised a briefing for councils from Maddox just to provide an opportunity for council to ask any questions. So I won't spend a lot of time talking through the report, but I will just note that that our recommendation regarding the S5, the instrument of delegation to CEO, if we're asking council to consider moving a motion that actually indicates whether the delegation excludes or includes GST. So that's just one part of the motion. But otherwise, the delegations are an important part of council business, and we've brought it to council just to reflect that there's been some updates to legislation in the last 12 months, and that Maddox have released their latest review of those legislation in July. And as I said, we've provided a briefing to council and an opportunity for council to ask Maddox questions about the delegations and the function of the delegations.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Do we have a mover for the motion? Councillor Tolhurst.
I'd like to put forward an amended motion that the motion be adopted as presented, but include a note that the instrument that states the delegation is exclusive of GST.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Getting someone to second that? Councillor Minty, thank you. Councillor Tolhurst, would I just speak to the motion?
Can I ask a couple of questions
yeah,
first?
absolutely.
Thank you. This is to the CEO. A number of the provisions around or falling under the Planning and Environment Act, so the delegations from you to officers, have been changed to not delegated, so including S812, S8A3 and S19 amongst others, and they're around preparing amendments to the planning scheme. Does that mean that the delegation then refers back, is within your wheelhouse, or it comes back to council? And just if you can provide some context on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So that particular instrument is delegations from council directly to officers. And so the practice here at the borough has been that council will deal with planning scheme amendments because of the keen interest in that and certainly the scale of the organisation. So where there's no delegation, that means the council will deal with that. The way we've dealt with that is we've talked about powers in that situation coming to council, duties coming to CEO, and then other duties and functions going to the officers. So in effect, there's a decision made by council, and the officers and myself implement those decisions. So that's the way we've structured that delegation. Yeah.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I do,
Councillor
just very briefly, thank you, Mayor, and that's to say and reiterate what the CEO said around councillors unanimously deferring this item last year to get some more information and a legal briefing, which I found personally extremely valuable to understanding what is quite a significant area of council's work, because by delegating authority, we allow a CEO or an officer to make a decision on behalf of it. So just to say thank you for scheduling that time and having the briefing. I found it enormously valuable to understanding a big part of our work, and feel very comfortable adopting what I've presented in the motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Councillor Menti, would you like to speak to the motion? No? Any other councillors? If not, no, I will put that to the vote. And all those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Item 13.4, the 429 Australian Air Force Cadet Squadron Freedom of Entry event. Thank you, McKenna.
No problems. Hello, councillors again. The purpose of this paper in the report is to seek a council resolution to support the 429 Australian Air Force Cadet Squadron Freedom of Entry event request for the use of the common seal upon the Freedom of Entry scroll that is to be presented by the Mayor at the event on Saturday. The recommendation is that Council authorises the use of the common seal of Council for 429 Squadron Australian Air Force Cadets upon the Freedom of Entry to the City scroll.
Thank you,
Any
McKenna.
questions? I'm happy to answer.
I'm happy to move the motion. Can I get someone to second the motion? Second, Councillor Grigau. Probably not so much a question, but just for the gallery and people online know that this is the first time this has happened for 141 years. So I think given that the history of defence in our borough, I think that this is a significant event. And just for people's own benefit, the parade steps off at the bottom of Hesse Street at 11 a.m. on Saturday. So just so you're aware, we'd love for everyone to come along and see the pageantry, and we all love a bagpipe band, so we'd love to see as many people as possible. So any other questions for McKenna, or anyone like to speak to the motion? Yeah, Councillor Menti.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to think it's actually a wonderful thing. I had the opportunity as a much younger man of doing this in the city of Campbelltown and leading a group of soldiers to ask for the freedom of the city where. And that was during a different time when you did fix bayonets and you did wave flags and you did have bands and you did challenge the city, and the city allowed you to come in. And it goes way back to anybody who has any sort of interest in military history. So it's a great thing, and it's going to be a wonderful day for the young people of the Air Force Squadron. I think they will remember it, and I'm sure their memorabilia will have our scrolls, and if those of you who've travelled widely will have seen similar things in small museums in small towns all over the world where they had these things and they had seals attached, whether they were wax, whether they were clay, whether they were tapes, and it's a good thing. It recognises Queenscliff as a military, having some great military history. I think it'd be a wonderful thing.
And the scroll is obviously it's kept by the Air Force cadets, but we will receive a copy of that so we can have it here in the chambers or in the foyer as well. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Grigau?
What council support are we giving the Air Force cadets to produce to stage this event? Are we doing anything for them?
It doesn't come at any financial cost to us. Our support in the sense of providing them with some background help to organise the road closure that's going to be happening on the Saturday. So really it's just been a handful of meetings just to make sure that they're able to meet the requirements that we've got to hold such an event.
We never offered them, sort of being such a significant event, we didn't make an offer to do the traffic controls, because that would be rather costly, and this as in such an important thing.
Through you, Mayor, and thanks, McKenna. So, as McKenna said, we've met with them a number of times, and we certainly, but we were led by them in terms of what they wanted from us, and the matters. My understanding is that the Defence do this quite in different parts of Australia, and they have processes and protocols and people that they use, and so that really our role was to do a couple of the formalities, which was to write to some Brigadier General, I think it was a Brigadier General, in Canberra to make the request and to offer the freedom of entry, and then also to just liaise about use of the road, but not necessarily management of the road. So that was about, yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions?
They'll be doing it.
Sorry.
Were they made an indication, or they'll be doing that anytime soon after this, or will it be like an annual event, or
I think once they've got the freedom, I don't know how long the freedom lasts for, to be honest. Maybe only if they give it back to us, maybe, don't it? Councillor Grigor. Yes. But it will be it'll be a great event for the borough, the community, as well as, those people who still have ties to the Defence. And I know part of the order is that the cadets will be challenged after receiving the entry. They will be challenged by the Victorian Police, and then hopefully the police will let them through and they can continue on marching up to the fort. So, thank you, and thank you for the work that McKenna's done, and also I know Shelley's been heavily involved in this as well, so thank you very much.
Is that on?
Thank you. We do have a mover and a seconder. Can someone, sorry, I'll just put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Councillors, item 14 is the signing and sealing of documents. There's no reports to consider. Item 15, questions without notice. 15.1, questions without notice status update. No questions without notice are outstanding. Questions without notice, 15.2. Councillors, do we have any questions without notice?
Yes.
Councillor Grigor?
There's an outstanding notion of in October 2021, 5, a request that officers prepare and present a report to council that outlines the framework for assessing the outcome of the replacement planting trial following the completion in 2024. The ongoing program for monitoring health in the Avenue of Honour. When we would be receiving this report?
Through you, Mayor. We're planning to bring it to council sort of following spring, following the next sort of growth spurt of the Avenue of Honour. However, we can, if it suits this council, provide an update of the assessment that was done by Homewood earlier this year about around the health of those trees, which was quite positive, except for a couple of trees that have been quite noticeable on the on Flinders Street there, which had died off and were part of a second tranche of stock that we received, and the advice from Homewood was that wasn't particularly good stock. So we can certainly provide an update now. I guess the Homewood are suggesting to us that the trial has been successful. There's no evidence or signs of canker at this point, and I guess the recommendation to council is that we continue to try and find good cypress stock, which is becoming increasingly harder to find, and that we continue potentially to fill the gaps and replace the trees as Homewood makes recommendations for their removal at end of life. But we'll provide something a bit more formal in the coming weeks if council would like that.
Thank you, Mr. Zia.
And would there be a weed audit conducted on the undergrowth of the trees to, say, clean up the undergrowths to honour the fallen dead that the men that we've sent off to war to give us the lifestyle that we now are accustomed to?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, look, certainly we did an audit of the northern side of the avenue, of the original avenue. I think it's about 2 or 3 years ago now, Stuart, and we did remove the weeds. The issue at the moment is that we have, it's vegetation, the native vegetation that's there is vegetation within the 200 metres of the coast, and therefore we need to get permission from the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action to remove native vegetation. So the audit would also require us to do an ecological assessment about the value of those trees. So we're thinking through how we might do that, especially for the southern side where we have some quite established native vegetation. So I can't provide a good response at this point in time, but we're certainly thinking through because we know that for a number of members of our community that's a significant issue.
Thank you.
Did you want anything, Stuart? No?
Only to say that the environmental review of the native vegetation there will require some level of investment, and there'll also be a level of investment for environmental offsets. So if vegetation of significance removed, we'll need to fund that environmental offset.
Understood. Thank you. Councillors, any further questions for this?
Yes,
Yes.
we've got, prior to the winds that's happened today, I've noticed that the centre sort of cyclone mesh for the cricket nets on the high school site has been down for several weeks, or sort of leaning over, and it's a safety hazard. When will that sort of safety issue be removed and to keep the residents of the borough safe?
I understand there's a contractor engaged. I haven't got the date of the works that they're scheduled for. I'll have to take that on notice and provide that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors?
Yes.
So,
I've got a list of them. Might as well get
sorry, councillor, just remind you, under governance 97.3, we do limit to 3 questions, but I'm happy to give a little bit of wiggle room here. So if you'd like to ask another question, happy for you.
There's some issues concerning the community, especially the cricket community, regarding the replacement fence of Royal Park. And they're concerned that there's a delay in the replacement of the fence due to cultural heritage and the cost. Could you please elaborate and maybe say, it's is a bit of a rumour spreading, or is it true?
Thank you, Stuart.
I'm unaware of any rumour spreading, so I'll do my best to answer the question as posed. So we're undertaking a permit to harm process, given that there's existing cultural heritage management plans that have been done and identified sites within 200 metres of the north-west boundary. We've made the decision to seek a permit to harm, to basically manage the risk of us inadvertently hitting any artefacts that may be there. So it's just the cost of applying for a permit to harm is $750, and there's just some engagement costs with Wadawurrung of to date $1,800, and some indirect costs through cultural heritage advisors around the history of that site.
Just to clarify, so there's already been CHMPs in that area, so we're not going to do it's not a new CHMP that we're doing.
Correct. No, they're pre-existing cultural heritage management plans.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Greer?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions for the CEO? No. not for this hour, question without notice. No further questions. We will move on to item 16, list of council meetings. As it says here, we will be back in 2 weeks' time as we prepare to have our last meeting before we go into caretaker. So the next council meeting will be on the 11th of September here in the Town Hall. Item 17, closed session of meeting. There's the recommendation that the chair will close the meeting to consider confidential items. Those items being 17.1, municipal building surveyor and building inspector tenderer. Can I get someone that we close the meeting? Move Councillor Tolhurst, seconded Councillor Minty. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery.